Being self-taught and not going to school for computer science, having a strong online portfolio has definitely been a priority for me. And when I first began developing web applications, I was hosting a lot of things on GoDaddy and on these random servers and having URLs linked to them. Then I could share these links with clients and have them check out my portfolio that way. And it was only later in my career that I began using GitHub. GitHub gives you a bunch of development features, and it also allows you to host your application online for free. This video isn't going to be a deep dive in how to use GitHub, but I'll make a video in the future to go into more detail. This video is more intended for someone who's just starting out in their web development journey, because working this way instead of just writing all of the code on your machine allows you to look back and see what you've learned over that time. It'll also allow you to revert to older versions of your code if you ever make any mistakes. The only two prerequisites for this tutorial are that you can write basic HTML and CSS, and you know how to get around your terminal. I have videos that cover both of those topics, and I'll link them in the description. Okay, so it's day one of your web development journey. The first thing that I suggest you do is to go over to github.com and create an account. After you've created an account and you've verified your email address, click on your avatar in the top right-hand corner and select Settings. Once you're on this page, click SSH and GPG keys, and it should take you here. What we're trying to do right now is to link your machine to your GitHub account. Because if I was working on a project, say on my desktop right here, and I made a folder called My App, there's no way for me to get any code that I write in here into my repository because my GitHub account isn't connected to my machine. Now, machines have keys associated with them, which is kind of like that computer's fingerprint. But you can delete this fingerprint and you can create new fingerprints. Now, if I go back to my home directory and I list out all the files, well, all of the files, you'll notice that there's a directory here called SSH. And that's the file where all of the SSH keys are stored. And this is the file that contains the key that we want. So we could open up that file with TextEdit and copy out the contents, or we could just use the ppcopy command, pbcopy, and then the name of the file. Now that key should be copied to our clipboard. We can go back to our GitHub account and say add a new key. Once you paste your key in here and add a title, you can press add key. If you don't see that SSH directory, you can always type SSH keygen, and it will create a new SSH key for you. Okay, so we've created a GitHub account, and we've shared our SSH key with the GitHub account. Now we need to create a new repository. Over here in the right-hand corner, you'll see a plus button, and you can choose New Repository. We'll just call this Test App. A repository is a place that you can store all of your code and its assets. In order to get a copy of this repository onto a machine, we have to clone it. So we can copy this line here. And we'll delete these. And if we type in git clone and then enter that link, you'll see that it creates this folder right here. Now we can change into it and start coding our application. The most necessary file to have is an index.html. And we'll just use Emmet to generate a scaffolding. And we'll put an H1 in here that says hello world. And now we can open this up on our local machine. But if we wanted to share this with other people, we can't necessarily just share this URL because this URL only applies to our local machine. What we want to do is host our application, and GitHub will allow us to do that. Now, if you're using Visual Studio Code, they already have a built-in source control feature, which makes this extremely easy. But you can also do this from your terminal. If I want to push all of the changes in one commit, I can do it like this. Git add period, meaning all of the files at right where I'm at. And that would, I'm in the root of the directory, so it just means everything. That would add all of those changes to this commit. Then I can type in git commit m, and then you type in what you did. Added a home page. Then after you've done that, you can do git push, and it will push those changes to your repository. Now let me show you how easy it is using Visual Studio Code. You just select the files that you want to put into this commit. A commit is just a set of changes that you've made. You want to keep your commits small, because if you ever make a mistake and you want to go back, you might end up undoing some work that doesn't need to be undone if your commits are really big. Also, we're not doing branches or pull requests. It's only one person working on the project and it's really simple. But this is how you do it in Visual Studio Code. You just click on the files that you want to add to the commit. There's also a plus sign up here. And if you have multiple files that you've made changes to, you can just push this and it will add all of them. Then you type in what you've done. Made homepage. Click this check mark. Then usually down here, you'll see an up and down arrow. But on your first push, you'll just get this little cloud icon. You'll see that it's working. And it's successfully pushed our changes to GitHub. And if we refresh our repository, you'll see that I made a commit 40 seconds ago. And here's a little message of what I've done. And if we click on it, we'll see all the code. And if you start working with other developers, you can add contributors to your repositories. So more than one person can work on the project at the same time. And that's really when you want to start to get into branches and pull requests. Because you usually don't push right to the master branch, which is what we've done. Usually what you do is create a new branch, and you can do this here on GitHub, or you can do it here in Visual Studio Code, and you can create a new branch. Then you make all of your code changes, and then you make a pull request, which is like saying, hey, I want to push these changes to the master, but I want someone else to look at it first. Then the person that is going to review the code can view that branch. And then once they've reviewed the code, you can merge it to the master. But if you're just starting in web development, you're probably working on your own little solo projects. But using GitHub is a great way to view your progress over time, no matter how small the project is. Okay, so we've created a repository. We've cloned the repository to the machine. And we've made some changes and we've pushed them to the repository. Now we want to share our application using Pages. So if we go back to GitHub and we open up our repository, we can click Settings. So we can scroll down to Pages and choose the source. Since we're only using the master branch, we're going to choose master. And the page should reload, and it will give us a URL. I usually like to copy this URL and put it right in the About. That way it's a little bit more accessible. So let's view our web application now. And there's our Hello World application. And we can take this link here and we can share it with anyone that we need to. My website's actually just an application that connects you to all of these projects that I've worked on so far. And they're all hosted on GitHub for free. And if you click on any of these applications, let's say Yogi FM, you'll see up here in the URL, this is being hosted on my GitHub account. Just a little way for clients to browse applications and projects that I've worked on. So I hope this helped you on your web development journey. Remember, no matter how small the project is, I think it's always a good idea to put it onto GitHub, because even hosting a private repository is now free. Thanks for watching my video. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.